in terms of how we treat each other in terms of titles.
Yeah, I think it's like something of the past, I think. Just because I think you should interact with people depending on their personality types and also like their title. But if I know somebody's going to be very data oriented, I might shift how I speak to them. That's the only time I'll shift how I'm speaking to somebody is how they retain information. So if like they're very like I need details, like all the things, I will give them a story. But if it's somebody that just wants the numbers, I'll put the data at the front of my conversation. If it's somebody that doesn't know what's happening, I'll like come in and be like, here's what I need from this conversation, and here's what I would like a resolution for. At the, like taking away like their race, like who they are as a human. I just look at how I should present it to make it the most impactful to them.
Hey, welcome to RAA Talks. Thanks for joining us once again. And if you're here for the first time, my name is Raihana, like rye bread, and I'll be your host. I've got a great guest for y'all. Joining me today is Blake Aviles. Blake is a senior communications specialist at T-Mobile, where she plays a pivotal role in fostering a dynamic and inclusive culture for just under 2 years' time. With experience in strategic communications, event planning, adding some pixie dust, and influencer management, Blake is a skilled storyteller who transforms visions into unforgettable realities. As a key contributor to T-Mobile's flagship employee programs, Blake conducts in-depth research on talent and influencers to curate impactful experiences. She crafts compelling narratives and executive briefings, ensuring that T-Mobile's values and voice is heard. She is the driving force behind the award-winning Talking with Trailblazers series, which focuses on courageous conversations on topics that matter with guests like Karamo Brown, Misty Copeland, Padma Lakshmi, to name a few. Blake, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. How's it going and where are you calling in from?
Yes, hi, I'm Blake, she, her. I'm calling from Seattle, Washington right now, but I'm doing well, about to hop on a plane to see my family in Florida, but happy to be here. It's been really great getting to know you over the last few months.
Yeah, likewise. So nice to just connect with another local Seattleite in the area in Washington. And if you're watching this when it's not the Christmas season, where we're red by accident, and Blake is totally decked out in the Christmas holiday, getting ready for the holidays. So this is amazing that we got this vibe going on right now. So, all right. So I like to start it off a little light and let listeners know what's something interesting about you. That's our fun fact for today.
Well, I'm a sucker for like Disney music or Disney Channel. I just love anything nostalgia. It's just like a nice way to bump your mood up.
That makes sense. Well, and with you going to Florida and liking Disney, I'm sure you're going to be spending some time at Disney during the holidays too.
Yes,
is that right?
of course I am.
Let's start it off with adulting a little bit, since we're talking about Disney and nostalgia and childhood. You know, Blake, you describe yourself when the second time I met you actually was as somebody who was kind of just navigating this path of adulting and really lavishing the experiences and looking at it from a different way. So I'd love to share with listeners today, what was your biggest reality check when you were transitioning from college into this professional world, and how did you navigate that?
Yeah. Aside from like the lack of naps or the inability to take naps between classes or meetings, I would say like the power of financial literacy. That's just something that was a huge reality check, like living with your family, then being on your own, and then having to know everything all at once. And financial literacy was something that I wasn't super educated in. We didn't have like that kind of stuff in high school or college. And then it was like, oh, wait, you have bills due right now. So it was a ton of research, and it might just be like the Capricorn in me, like the money obsessed part. But I try to educate myself in every way I can, whether that's blogs or TikTok's my oracle, and then the other things like some of the influencers I follow that specialize in investing in yourself.
Wow. And when you talk about investing in yourself, are you talking more about like money management or like professional development?
Yeah, both. So I'm saying yes to any learning opportunity. So that'd be like listening into a talk, or whether that's opening Fidelity and looking through that and finding a money coach, which is something that T-Mobile offers, thankfully. And you could talk to them about savings account or buying a home or a car, or just being better about saving money in general. So that's been a really great perk to have here.
Absolutely. That makes total sense. But I remember when I graduated from college, that whole like transition, it feels like you were in like this surreal make-believe world, and now you're entering what they call the real world. And it didn't really feel different at first, but then when I started working, for example, everyone was like 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard to kind of navigate that path. And I totally get it when you're talking about navigating the finance part, because I remember people were like talking about how they want to invest in their 401k right away and they start putting higher percentages and so forth. And I was like,
What is that?
What is that? 6% good enough? Is that too low? And they're so confused. And someone was like, when we first set you up, like, okay, here's your account. Do you need someone to help you manage it? I'm like, I don't really know how to manage this. So yes, please. So the first 5 years was like someone else managing it. Like, I had no idea what was going on. So I could imagine how helpful having this money coach at your work, how helpful that can be. How is it for you? How's your experience with that?
Yeah, it's been really great because they kind of do quizzes and like, little pulse checks to see what your knowledge is and then what your goals are. And then you can like talk with them on a video call and share your screen and they'll walk you through. That way everything's very digestible, like the content, because these words or percentages, they can help you in real time, which is something I really value, especially with like stock, like employee stock purchase plan, things that like a college student really know about. So that's been super great.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. And what a great resource to have at this employer. I haven't heard about that at other employers I worked at, but that sounds like really amazing perk. And aside from the whole money management thing and really like learning the ropes of what does that even mean and investing and really taking care of yourself there, what's one adulting skill that you really mastered and you never thought would be that important in your life?
Yeah. I would think going backwards a little bit back in time, my like 7th grade and before part of me would be like super introverted, like would not walk up to people to talk to them. I
Yes.
Girl, my social battery after like I don't even know what day, but it's been gone. But I'm doing okay now. But just the ability to network is like such a skill because it's all about who you know and timing. And like you never know who you'll run into just walking past them or like people like you when I'm speaking at a panel, just being able to connect afterwards and where that could lead to in the future.
Yeah, so I'm so happy you brought that up. That is incredibly important. And I remember when I met you at that panel, it was funny. We met at T-Mobile and they had a really amazing event by Latina Centec here in Bellevue. And Blake just struck me as somebody who was just powerful. She was sitting on that stage. She was very explicit. I'm wearing my Polly Pocket pink heels, and she spoke so eloquently, and it just made me think, you know what? I'm gonna talk to her. I'm gonna try to make some connection here before I go today. And here we are. And it just shows you the power of networking because you never know that one person you meet where it could lead to. The opportunities are endless. But I'm curious, what do you think about that? Like when you go to networking events and what goes in your mind in terms of what you're looking for in outcomes?
I personally let's just say it's an event with a specific like organization. I'll research the heck out of them and just see what their values are and how it aligns with what I have and like what I'd like in the future. So I just kind of go in with like some knowledge of them and then maybe like 2 or 3 questions I'd like to ask people. And then just an elevator pitch of yourself and keep it short and sweet, something that somebody can walk away and tell the next person exactly what you just said. So just being very impactful with what you are going into this meeting or this networking opportunity and just being ready because like you just have to be very personable. So don't be like a robot. Just keep your personality at the forefront, but also remember why you showed up and you're showing up for yourself and that's who you have at the end of the day. So just keep in mind that.
My God, what a beautiful reminder. I just had that conversation and presentation I gave earlier today about career transitions. And we're talking about, when you go through a layoff, for example, the first thing you have to do is take a break and take care of yourself. Because like you were saying, you're there for yourself. The relationship with yourself is so important. And to just trust yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
You're not going to make a mistake. You're just going to learn. And if it doesn't go the way that you wanted, hey, it doesn't matter. You came, you showed up, you played full out, and you're going to learn and take away these things that you can do better next time. So amazing tips. Now, you mentioned just a few minutes ago that you were so introverted. And so I can only imagine, how does this little introvert show up talking with the trailblazers and feel so confident leading these conversations? And you even mentioned I work with some big names through this series. Have you ever felt like you didn't even belong in these high-stake conversations sometimes?
I don't think I felt that I didn't belong, but I felt like a little nervous, like fangirling internally, like I don't show it on the outside. I just remove titles as soon as I walk into the room because I personally don't hold the conversations. I plan them and like walk right out the talk track, which is essentially like all the talking points and research the people to make sure they're a good fit for what T-Mobile is and like what we value. and then find a speaker at T-Mobile, like a senior leadership or director plus person that would kind of make and mesh well with this person on stage.
Okay.
So it's kind of fun that way. But I think like when I'm meeting these folks, I just, like I said, take out the titles. Everybody's experiencing life for the first time too. And at the end of the day, these people have kids or pets at home or just themselves that they need to take care of. And we're all here for the same thing. It's just to spread knowledge to one another.
You know what? You were the second person I met this week who is a younger person that's so mature. And I was just blown away when you just said that. I removed the titles, and I remember at the end of the day, they have families, they've got pets, we're all humans. You didn't say that piece, but I'm just adding that little take on my own.
100%.
And I didn't hear young people that way talking like that. You know, I'm just here, I'm like some old gal here, right? I'm not old.
No.
But what I mean is, it's like when we talk about like Gen Z, and I think it's Gen Alpha now, if I'm getting that right. I think it's just the titles like get to you, or even if you're all like away in baby boomers, like you feel like, oh yeah, if this person has like a VP title, I'm gonna respect them a lot more than the person at the front desk that's, you know, at the reception just checking me in. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in that we start showcasing our character based on so much of our interactions, from what I've seen and observed in the workplace and even in, you know, outside of work, is based on your title or the car you drive or the purse you're carrying or the way your hair is done. It's like that becomes your title outside of work. But I'm curious, what's your take on it in terms of how we treat each other in terms of titles?
Yeah, I think it's like something of the past, I think, just because I think you should interact with people depending on their personality types and also like their title. But if I know somebody's going to be very data oriented, I might shift how I speak to them. That's the only time I'll shift how I'm speaking to somebody, is how they retain information. So if like they're very like, I need details, like all the things, I will give them a story. But if it's somebody that just wants the numbers, I'll put the data at the front of my conversation. If it's somebody that doesn't know what's happening, I'll like come in and be like, here's what I need from this conversation, and here's what I would like a resolution for at the end of it. So as like taking away like their race, like who they are as a human, I just look at how I should present it to make it the most impactful to them.
Interesting. Now you're talking from a work experience. I like that. Again, you're really talking at like a high level. Like, I'm going to adjust to what they need. I'm going to do my research, understand how do they work, how do they take in information, and I'm going to deliver it that way so it sticks. That's such a great tip. I'm wondering, how do you apply that same thinking or different when it comes to the outside work world, like just your personal life, how you interact with people when you go to the mall, the grocery store, the bank, those kinds of experience? How do titles affect or not affect you at all?
Yeah, I think I'm more sensitive to people that like maybe not have like a quote unquote higher title. Like I will go out of my way to give them the attention or like go to talk to them. It's because I feel like some people treat folks as they're invisible, and they just have like this, they're cleaning the bathroom essentially. I will check in on them and like just thank them for what they're doing. I know it's their job, but like sometimes people go all out for doing their job, even just wiping down a counter. And I think that stems from my family working in like hospitality jobs when I was growing up. I'm 28 now. My dad just got a quote unquote corporate job like a year or two ago. So I've never spent like a holiday, like an actual holiday with him, just because he was managing a restaurant or bartending or something. So I think just having that extra little thing built into me, just like seeing people for more than what their job title is, and making an effort to connect, is because the people that are often doing those jobs don't have that connection with their loved ones, or the people at work, just because they're either invisible at work, quote unquote, or they are working so many hours to where they can't see their loved ones as often as they'd like to, just because they're working paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you for sharing that experience and opening up about that. Like that really does tell truth to who you are and how that experience growing up has built you into this caring, empathetic person for all human beings, not just based on title. And I can see now where that comes from because of that experience you had with your parents working in restaurant jobs. And we were wondering, when your parents were managing, you said your dad, so when your dad was managing the restaurant, bartending and all, and just not having time for the family because he's just trying to make ends meet. Did you or your siblings take part in any of that when you were growing up, when you were like at the right age to work? And how did that influence your upbringing and who you are today?
I think I've been like hustling since I was like 10, not to make it sad again, but my dad would come.
Television coming out.
So my dad would come home late, so like I'd be waiting at the top of the stairs because it was like a townhouse kind of situation. And like I'd have like a little towel and like his dinner or like a drink in my hand, just presenting it to him. And it'd be like, I'd be up way too late. It'd be like 10:30, 11 plus PM. And again, I was probably younger than 10. But I'm just saying, just generally it's around the time. And then as soon as I could work, I started working in the restaurant business. Shout out to Noodles and Company. We don't have that many out here on the West Coast, but it's a nicer Panera essentially. I did that.
Interesting.
Yes, I worked in restaurants from like 15 until 20 or 21. My last restaurant job was working in Disney World in the Disney College program. So I'm going from a little Noodles and Company in Michigan, like I said, a Panera situation, to serving thousands and thousands of customers or guests, as they reference them, was a huge, not only culture shock, but like it made it even more magical for me because I had to make an impactful moment every time I spoke to somebody.
Wow. Yeah. It's really a gift when you work in restaurants. That was actually my first job out of college. I used to work retail a lot. And in college, high school, I was working at JCPenney.
Cool.
And in college, I worked at a tea station. So I just learned how to make all the boba drinks, and I made my own. And I'm like, I got my customized one. And then you learn, like, man, this stuff's bad. Like, it used to taste good. Like, I'm getting this anymore. So you get real selective.
I know.
Stuff.
You get real selective and you respect the chefs and the people that help make the magic happen.
Yeah, no, totally. And then after college, I got a restaurant job. So I feel you when you're like, you start respecting the people that clean in the toilets. That used to be me as a hostess. Part of my job, you stand there, but when nobody's coming in, you go check those bathrooms every 10 minutes to make sure there's no paper towels on the floor, there's no water around the sinks and everything, and making sure everything's stocked. And then, I did that for like 3 to 4 months, and I learned a lot. Like, I feel like you just learn so much from that space. You interact with so many different kinds of people. You learn how to talk to people, how to vary your communication based on who's in front of you. How do you make people feel comfortable and cared about? Yep. And you even learn a sense of appreciation for those things, as you mentioned, like the people just picking up the trash. Sometimes we go to these conferences and we expect it to be clean, but we don't even take a minute to think, who's actually cleaning up here? Let me give them some appreciation for doing this, so I don't have to come here in this place looking like a garbage
help where
can.
You can. Yeah. If you can help where you can too, just see something, pick it up yourself. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, there's never a time where I go to a public restroom and I don't wipe up the sink. Like, it's like built in me now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it not being that way for you, because like once you've done it, it's there. Like, you can't just get rid of that. You know what I mean? But you correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, I still do it. If I'm at my friend's place and they're serving food, I'm cleaning. I'm doing anything I can to help.
Man, so let's move into leadership, since we're talking about, like gaining skills and trying to like manage our success and everything. Yes. As someone who is, you mentioned you're not really giving the conversations and leading them, but you're doing a lot of like back end work to make sure the people who are leading these conversations are set up for success, the trailblazers, for example. So someone who's really shaping the company culture at T-Mobile, how do you define leadership beyond titles and positions?
Yeah, I think, not to toot my own horn, but one of the leadership people of the communications team at T-Mobile called me out in like a big meeting and just essentially said that I'm like a model employee for what people should be looking to do. So I think that is a way that you can define leadership, is just being like the model employee, even if you don't have the title. Like, I'm an individual contributor. I don't manage anybody. But I think that just having certain parts of your personality showcase leadership, whether it's like raising your hand or seeing that your friend, your coworker, your peer, they're like quote unquote drowning on their work, just seeing if you could take something off their plate. It's also like a nice learning opportunity for you to be able to be like, yeah, I've dabbled in HR work, even though I don't specialize in it. I help out where I can. Also, just being somebody to speak up, like, for example, like accessibility or DE&I efforts. I am somebody that are very passionate about that. And I will be at like the parades, the rallies outside of work, but in work, I do what I can too.
That's so cool. When you said, I was like, you know what, just hearing how you're talking and the way you are as a human being, I'm like, why is she not in human resources? Like, you would make an asset to any company for the HR department. No, seriously, because there's someone I know is a very close friend of mine. I always tell them, you put the human in human resources. And they work in HR and they're one of the leaders there in their company. And you just reminded me of that person. You have several qualities that they possess, which makes them really like show that they care for the company and the employees. And I think that's something to consider if you ever want to look into like a career shift down the line. Not say leave T-Mobile, but it's something you want to explore. And thank you for sharing that about how you see that it's about being a role model employee. I'm curious, what do you mean by that? What does it take to be a role model employee, at least in Blake Aviles' mind?
Yeah. I think stepping in front of the line while everybody else is stepping behind it, but also knowing when to also in your head, step behind the line. That way other people can go forward and shine as well. So just seeing what people's strengths and I don't want to say weaknesses, but places where they can grow. So giving people the opportunity to do that as well. But I think that being a model employee is just somebody that necessarily follows the rule book line by line, but is asking, how can we make this better? What is the zoomed out POV, the 10-foot view of what we're working on? Because I feel like people get so in the weeds of their work, and I get it, timelines, there are people on you about getting things turned in, but just taking 5 minutes to step away and see where you could be more creative and see where you can make things more efficient instead of this is how we've always done it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard you say bringing a fresh perspective, making sure you're giving other people the opportunity to step up and if not help push them up to that line, being more creative or some other things. Anything else coming to mind for you when you said that helps us visualize what does it mean to step above the line?
Yeah. I said earlier, to raise your hand when there are things like an opportunity for growth. And an example of that is if you're at a company or organization that offers mentorship, and Latinas in tech is one that you mentioned the panel earlier, but being a mentor and a mentee, I think is a great way to be a model employee. That way people can learn from you, but you can learn from others at the same time. And it doesn't have to be every single week or every single day. It's just maybe once a month, just to meet up with somebody for a virtual chat like this or a coffee chat. So that way you can continue your knowledge and growing your network.
Yeah, no, totally. That makes a lot of sense. So thank you for sharing all that great advice. I feel like that can help some listeners who are starting off really in their career and even for folks who are mid-career and so forth, just looking to kind of think, how do I kind of reinvent myself and make sure I'm adding value in the right ways? And if they're doing a shift, how do they present themselves as the best candidate for the job as well? And you talked about working in communications a lot, and it also how I'm sure you're very plugged into social media as well because of your job and even outside of work. How do you manage the impact of social media on your own mental health and at work and outside of work?
Yeah, I think Theodore Roosevelt once said the quote that comparison is the thief of joy. And I think comparing yourself, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, or just life in general to others, can really impact your mental health. But I think it's all about how you react to it. TikTok, for example, is your For You page is very skewed to you. So it's kind of literally how you react to it is what your feed will be. So you can also do that in your brain too, is how you react to things oh, I'll never look like this Victoria's Secret model, but she looks great, and just scroll past and keep going. But the side of mental health that people don't really get to talk about too much is the dark side, and just knowing how to set your limits. And that could be you go on social media and I said, kind of disassociate and just go there for your enjoyment. But if you start to find yourself going into that dark place, maybe it's time for a little break from it, take a walk, put on some music, and or just call a friend. So just being sure that you're in touch with who you are and not that your social media defines you, because it does not. I just look at it as my journal. My partner, he's always nervous, or not nervous, but he doesn't love posting. He's I don't know if people like what I'm posting or all that. And I'm just I think it's your page is for you. It is for you to look at, not to, again, to my own horn, but I'll look at my own story because I was oh yeah, that was really funny, what I posted earlier. Or oh, I have a whole mental health folder that I go to if I'm ever feeling down. It's literally social media posts from people that have made me laugh or inspired by things. So just social media can also be used for good, I think. It's not always about the dark side, as I was mentioning, but knowing when to take your breaks and also go into it for a positive uplift.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that makes total sense because I would like to hear more on what you're saying about the dark side. I want to just do a quick comment about what you were saying in this mental health folder that you had. That's a really nifty idea to save some of those posts and just kind of keep them in your back pocket for when you need a little uplift. But I'm with you though. I mean, going on my accounts and I'll look at some of the other stuff that I read. I'm that was really good. How come I don't think about that every day? You should be spitting out wisdom like you are right now to people. And then when you're in you can't.
I know.
But keeping them documented like you do in your blog and your social helps you to kind of just refresh. Hey, yeah, I wrote this. I thought about it before. I need to make sure I'm implementing this stuff. But let me go back to that dark side piece. I want to hear a little bit more from your perspective. What do you believe dark side is and how social and how has that affected you personally?
I think the dark side of social media, one part of it, like one prong of it, I guess you could say, is like consumerism and like the feeling like you need to have the newest thing or like the newest, go to see the newest movie like Wicked, which I love, and that I don't know hate to that, but I'm just saying like the fear of FOMO and things like that can really like get on you. And if it's like, oh, my friends are on this trip and I can't go because I'm not in Florida, for example, and it's just hard to like connect with them. So that is like the dark sides where I get into my head. And like I personally struggle with anxiety and depression. So I call them my cloudy days. So my partners are people, not my partners, lol, I only have one, but like my people, I just tell them like what's going on and like that it's just a cloudy day. I either just leave it at that or I find a nice mental health outlet for that. But another prong aside from consumerism is like the fear of FOMO, or not fear of FOMO, just FOMO. But it's just seeing people that look like what you thought you wanted to look like and just not remembering your own beauty, whatever that looks like, whether that's internally or externally. But mainly you look at the external beauty on people on social media, and it could be kind of disheartening. But I just go back into my head and referring to Wicked again. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen Wicked yet?
You're what?
Have you seen Wicked yet, the movie?
Wicked. I am not. You know,
Okay.
I this is a really embarrassing story, but I'll share it with you anyways. I saw the play, technically, when I was in high school because a friend had a ticket. And I didn't like wearing glasses at all when I was growing up.
Same.
And I hated them. I like I'm gonna wear contacts and that's it. And at one point I was like, no, I can't afford these. They're too expensive. So I forgot my glasses at home by mistake.
Oh, no.
And my friend was driving, her aunt was driving us to go. And we're at a gas station, probably like 5 minutes away from my house. And I felt so bad to ask, can we just go back to my house and grab my glasses? And the point where we were sitting, he's saying, just like I'm frosted. It's all so blur. I saw the green blur moving around and a little white blur.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm trying to move the phone. All I can do is here, and you know, I fell asleep.
Yeah,
Like, if you believe
understandable.
somebody would fall asleep in a musical,
Especially with Wicked when they're doing their belts and things, I'm like, you're a deep sleeper.
people tell you what they did because all I did was I could hear things, but I felt like I literally felt, not literally, but I felt to some extent what it meant to be blind that day. And it just dawned on me just now because I couldn't experience the entirety of that performance, even though I was really looking forward to it, all because I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And it just took so much mental energy. When you just talk about anxiety and depression right now, like I remember that moment, like it just took so much mental energy for me to focus on what's in front of me, even though my vision wasn't clear, that I just got tired and I slept.
Yeah.
And it's funny now, but it's crazy, you know? Like I got to experience what it was like to be blind that day. But anyways, yes, please tell me about the movie and continue on your story.
Yes, no, I totally feel you on the people pleasing, like not wanting to make people upset, but in the long run, it's a long play, a long movie too. So like props to you for sitting there. But really quick caveat, I know that like for accessibility, a new thing that just came out, I don't know if it just came out, but there are glasses you can wear and like you kind of look down and it gives you like the closed captions of what like people are talking or if you're watching a movie or a play or anything. So I think that's really cool that just happened. So if you ever forget those glasses, go back and get them because those are really cool.
Yeah, if I can go back in time and do that, I probably should consider that.
Yes.
Man, that's too funny.
But yes, I was saying like the dark part, like of mental
the dark side.
Social media. One thing that recently, like the Wicked movie, I was saying there's a part where Elphaba, the green one, she sees her younger self in a part where she's like really struggling. And I just go back and I think of like what would like little me be saying or doing. And that makes me so grateful for what I'm doing because I'm like living in Seattle. I have a great partner and we have 2 cats and we have food in the fridge. And those are just things that like people take for granted, is like having a warm home and somebody to, you know, have in your life that you love, and just things I didn't think were possible for me are. So that's when I like take a reality check, is like putting social media away and be like, okay, actually it's pretty great what's going on in my life. And I'm really grateful for that.
That's so awesome. I wish you were doing this at home. I would love to see those cats come on the camera, like the tails.
I know.
So the cat person, you know, dogs don't do that, but cats always come. It's so much fun to see them in calls.
Yes.
Sorry, dog people. Little cat moment going on. You know, it's funny. You mentioned that, like, just going back to your younger self and wondering what your younger self do. And you know, I have so many people that I know that have kids, and I've had conversations with women who are mothers, and so I fully understand the concept that when you have kids that are growing up, you don't really know how to compare. You don't really know how to be angry or upset or sad about things.
Yeah.
You smile all the time. You're just happy and laughing all the time. You maybe cry when you need something, but you really don't know any other emotion except for joy. And it's funny that when you were saying like, oh, I got to go back and ask my younger self, what would I have done? So much of what we learn from the people around us and the society we were brought up in, the house, the neighborhood we live in, the schools we went to, etc. All of those things have affected us and taught us how to be and behave, that we've learned to compare and we've learned to feel bad when we don't look a certain way or people have things we don't. And we start feeling guilt and doubt and all kinds of things. And it's just like, you sometimes wonder, hey, where did that even come from? Like, when did younger me even get, exposed to that?
Yeah.
So it's so, I just wanted to bring up that connection because it's just so interesting. When you were saying though, what would you have told younger me, or what would have younger me said when you were looking through that movie and all, and you were saying about anxiety and depression you're experiencing and maybe even doubt sometimes.
Yeah.
What would younger me have said? Just recapping how younger me is more about joy, not comparison, none of this negative stuff.
I think going like to what's relative now, people will probably be like, or my younger self will be like, who is this diva? Like, you just need to be kind to yourself, and it's okay to set boundaries, and that's with your family, your friends, and your coworkers. Just because back then I felt like so free, and then like you said, everything that school or people around you just kind of shape you to kind of go into that like little hole. But I think that the younger self, like, you're running around, you're screaming, you're crying, you can let all your emotions out, and people are like, oh, she's just a kid. But like, if you see me at home, I'm like doing all those things still. So yes, I'm like jumping around.
You give yourself the space and grace to do that, if you do at all.
Yeah, I find like fun outlets, whether that's me like singing around in my apartment, or I have ClassPass, which is like the gym thing you can do. Like you can do dance or yoga or whatever. But I do dance classes too. So just to like find that younger self, because I used to do dance classes, and it's a fun way to keep your brain fresh. Like reading, obviously, but also like learning new choreography and moving your body in ways you don't normally 9 to 5. It's a fun way, but yeah, just being kinder and setting boundaries around you just to keep yourself sane.
I know you're just not about those swing music, because I saw your post recently how you dressed up as Pitbull and traded your curls for the ball. We didn't really catch that one.
I love his work.
Anyone who hasn't seen it, if Blake is fine with you guys connecting with her on LinkedIn, she looked real cool. She became like a stun double for Pitbull. And I think you actually won the contest, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, his dancers chose some people, and I was one of those folks. So it was really cool. I was fangirling over them. So, but I don't know. I love RuPaul's Drag Race. So like, I watched it, and like my partner Drew, he helped me like braid my hair, because they wear ball cap sometimes to put the wigs on. But I just had to do a bald cap to like contain the Puerto Rican curls happening. So it was fun.
Oh, you're from Puerto Rico. Wow. Super cool. Didn't notice that. Always lovely meeting up with Latina. I'm Latina Caribbean, if I didn't tell you already. My family's from Guyana. So it's like just on the border between Venezuela and Brazil in South America. So always super fun.
Yes, your accent's so beautiful.
Me gusta mucho.
Yes. Okay. To like shake your hips. It's so fun.
It's live. Okay, let's take it back to health and weight management. You were talking about like this mental health thing going on. I want to take it back to the anxiety you mentioned earlier. And when you think about anxiety and depression, Corporate Life often kind of promotes and what is the right word here? Promotes and awards. That's not the word I'm looking for, but that's the closest thing I think of. Like it awards people who follow this hustle mentality, who are just like, not just work hard, but work long, work till you just can't breathe, basically, until you can't keep your eyes open. But how do you prioritize your health and your well-being under these industry pressures and knowing these things about yourself, like the anxiety and the depression that you're dealing with?
Yeah, I just remember that we're floating on a rock, or whatever people say, and that it's not that serious. And as long as I get my work done well and on the timeline, and be very communicative, and I'm transparent on timelines, that's about it. I don't take that too seriously. Like I won't work until like 10 or 11 p.m. every night, but I'll try to stick to a normal schedule and over communicate with my managers, and just that way they know what's happening and when. But I have had like toxic management in the past, which has kind of shaped me to be like not always on edge, but like my first, like that was one big change I had to like get over with like my current manager. She's great. She's nothing like my last manager kind of thing. So not just like my last one, but you know what I mean? The one that was toxic.
Right.
Just being able to separate those, because your past is not your current, and
Yeah.
just knowing how to set boundaries, like I was saying, and be like, if you have a child, which I personally don't, but you know what I mean? Like if you're like, I need to go do this at this time, and if they don't understand, that's on them. But yeah, just being very straightforward with your managers is it.
When you say that, it sounds so easy said than done. Because I've experienced personally myself when I was working before I left my job and everything and started my business. And I'm like you. I'm like, I'm not going to work nights. I'm not going to work weekends. I've seen several people in my team do it in the past, and I could sense there was pressure to do it. And I know there was also someone in my leadership org who was like, yeah, I do this, but I don't expect you all to do it.
Yeah.
But everyone under that leader would do it anyways, because it was almost like they were mirroring the same behavior. And so I'm wondering, you mentioned these toxic work environment, and I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more on that, because when you yourself are like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure everything's done on time.
Yep.
But you have all these other pressures coming in. You got toxic work environment. How did that affect you? And how did you like navigate it so you're not letting it kind of like suffocate you in the process and what's important to you?
Yeah. I think like writing everything down and like being very like list oriented helps too. But, and also like sometimes I know you have to work late, not just you, but people in general, like, but not all the time kind of thing. So understanding that like sometimes you will have to put the grind in, quote unquote, but not all the time. And I think my role that was a little toxic, it was like a constant need for a list of what I'm working on that day, how long it's going to take me, how long did it actually take me? Also, can you do the admin things for like write what happens? Like, well, one, write the agenda for the meetings and then what happened in the meeting and send us the notes. So it was just like doing 12 jobs at once and making not that great money and working like 60, 70 hours. Not great on the mental health. So it was just like, this isn't right. Like you just take a step back and be like, my mental and physical health are depleting, and just taking a real serious look at what you're working on, if that's your passion or not. And then just look for, it could be your role that you're in that may not be a great fit, or the team itself. So just like trying to see it, that which one it is first. And if it's both, then definitely find a different way. I know it's easier than said than done, but like it takes time. So, but if you just start looking, that's the first thing, and then keeping yourself very organized, like, you don't have to keep an Excel sheet, but I personally did. Like I kept like where I applied, when, and then like what step I'm in. If I just applied or interview or did not get accepted for the role. I think that's helpful for people looking for new roles, whether they're in one right now, like a current job, or unfortunately laid off kind of situation. So just keeping yourself accountable is huge.
That makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to ask you a follow-up related to that, because you're like, you went from talking about how you were asked to do way more than what you expected. You even talked about working like at hours that an investment banker would be working 60, 70 hours. Those people work those kind of hours. I'm wondering, how did you know, you go from that to talking about job search, but I'm wondering, how did you know, hey, this is not okay. I need to get out. What was a signal for you in the middle of that? Because you and I both know the value of, well, hey, I need this job. I need to get it done. I need to pay my bills. There's no other option. We both, I'm going to assume that we both know that, and we've operated that way to some extent in our life. But in this case, when it's like, okay, you started feeling something, what was that something you felt, and how did you know, I need to get out? Like, this is not an option for me to continue.
There were two things. One was I felt cornered. My one-on-ones became 2 or 3 or 4-on-ones with people like from,
oh my God,
that was it. And then another time was my manager saying, I don't think this industry is for you. And I felt like really offended, but like, I think she was right at the time. And I didn't like overreact. It was just kind of like, no, not to relate it back to like family stuff, but like I just gray stoned is what I call it, where I just let them have their tantrum or whatever is going to happen, and then just don't react, and then just move on and like do what's best for you at the end of the day.
Wow. And what did that make you feel like when the manager would tell you that, and you had 3, 4 people in your one-on-one, and it's like they're ganging up on you almost, like it sounds like.
I felt like very insecure. Like I would be educating myself, is there like things I can be doing better, or like over reviewing my items or having people review items before I turn them in. And so just being over analytical on my work and not super self-forgiving, which is something I've gotten better at, and talking through things more. Because I think I was like a volcano personally and professionally, where I would just bottle up and just like when things were wrong, they were wrong, like at that time. So that was something that I noticed myself doing, which now I am going to therapy, not just for that, but like for just in life in general, just going to therapy and being more open with how I'm actually feeling rather than declining what I think my emotions are.
I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And especially, it sounds like it was like one of your first one or two jobs that you had. I mean, that's a really hard thing to experience because it really shapes your perceptions about the world, the people you would be working with in your future jobs. Like it just creates these impressions that are kind of hard to change once you move along. And you mentioned the whole thing about enrolling a therapist. At what point did you decide this is some resource that I need to take advantage of? And what benefits are you experiencing from working with a therapist currently?
Yeah. So growing up, I've always felt like some sense of like weight on my chest or just some sort of anxiety or stressors. And my mom, like I love her, but she's very like a wall. Like you cannot get into her emotions. But she would just kind of deny that anything like stress or anxiety was a thing, that everybody has it. So finally, when I first got health insurance as like an actual adult, I was like looking at my options, and that's when I decided to do it. So it was more like I've always felt like I needed to do this, but that's not embarrassed. But like I felt like my mom wouldn't have helped me to do it, or one, help me find one, but also fund it or have her health insurance figure it out. So, but I've done both in person and then virtual options for therapy, and they're both great. They both have their perks. But I think that it's helped me a lot with my day to day. If there's ever like a conflict personally or professionally, how to handle those things. And also how to handle my own emotions, like take a step back, like, why am I feeling this way? Is it just, the little dark cloud over me, just doing it just for fun? Or is it like a genuine thing that I need to get through?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And, sometimes having that, what someone else said that saw a therapist that I interviewed was like having a sounding board. And I always say, like, having a coach is just like that. It's just instead of focusing on understanding the past and what's going on and what are you feeling and why you're feeling it, coaching takes it a step further. It's like understanding that why piece, but then helping you to release that emotion and move forward towards your goals and what you want to get to. And so it's almost like they go hand in hand. But I'm just wondering, like, for the therapy that you've experienced, for how long have you been doing it? And if somebody is not sure if they should enroll a therapist, what are some cues that you think they should pay attention to? I know you mentioned you felt like a weight on your chest, but I'm wondering, could you like elaborate on that? What does that really like look like and feel like if someone's not sure what that feels like?
Yeah, so I think anxiety and stress hit people, or depression, all the things hit people in different ways. But if you feel like a physical reaction to certain things, whether it's speaking in front of people, like presenting or interviewing or working on something, then maybe there's like a little something there. But I think that everyone should try therapy at least once in their life, even if you feel like nothing's going on, just to like talk through things, because things that you didn't think would show up will. And it might also jog your memory for things that happened in your life that you kind of put into like a filing cabinet that you don't open ever. So it's a nice way for you to be able to work through things that have impacted you and like to work past those. Or else you may hold like an invisible grudge over yourself and not let your full self shine because you are kind of putting it away for now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for being vulnerable to share your own personal experience as well. I know that can be a hard thing to admit. I mean, especially like before, not now anymore, and especially with Simone Biles promoting the whole like get a therapist, take care of your mental health. Getting a therapist used to be like a stigma, like a negative social stigma, right? But now it's more like it's part of self-care. And so I appreciate you kind of sharing the positivity around that narrative. And we're getting to the end of our time together, and I'm so sad to say that. But looking at your journey so far, what are you most grateful for, and what are you excited about for the future for yourself?
Yeah. Oh, that's a loaded question. I think stepping out of the comfort zone. 2021, when I moved here from Florida, like moved to Seattle from Florida, and that's something I'm super proud of just because it was outside of my comfort zone. And I didn't know many people out here, and it's just totally new everything. And not saying you have to move across the country, but just like doing something that makes you feel a little uneasy can be where you grow the most. And I think that's what's helped me to where I am right now, where I'm literally talking to you. And I've done like panels and like worked with people across the board here at T-Mobile and met really cool people in the industry at conferences. But I think that's what I'm most proud of, and just the willingness to express myself at work and just show my personality and not shy away from it. Because some people feel like super like professional box, but I'm like, you can be a personality hire and really good at your job. So why not do both?
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so cool. Yeah. What was one challenge for you? Like just coming to a new place. Like, why even Seattle? Like, this here. Why here? Choose this place, right? But
Yes.
who lives here, who was born here, like, don't come. It rains all the time. I think
I know. It's a beautiful place.
Moved here. It is so beautiful.
It's
so
a very
We gotta
beautiful
check it out.
place. I know. Yeah, they
So what
have
made
the
you?
water
made you
city in
move?
the mountains. So like all the different scenery. And
Mhm.
I just wanted to change. Like I know Disney's there, but that's in my future. So I'm just like gaining experience here in Seattle, both professional and personal. And I also love Twilight. So like if it looks like Twilight, I'm down. Yeah.
Did you make it down to Forks yet?
Yeah, I've made it to Forks. I made it to Oregon to see Halloween Town. Yeah, I've seen all the things, and I've
I
been
didn't know
loving it.
Halloween Town was in Oregon. That's so interesting. That used to
Yeah.
be one of my favorite movies growing up.
Yeah, it's in St. Helens, and a few scenes where they filmed Twilight, like not Edward's, Bella's house is over there too. Literally all the same, like 5-minute corner.
How
So
interesting.
yeah.
Look at that. Getting a little tourist to the Pacific Northwest, Oregon and Oregon and like all of Washington state is considered the PNW. So all right. Wow. That's so much fun. Thank you so much, Blake, for all of that.
2 quick things. One, I already introduced myself, but I forgot to say like what I look like. So for those that may have like not great eyesight or can't see at all, I am a woman with like tannish skin with curly brown hair and brown eyes. And best way to find me would probably be on LinkedIn. It's just my first and last name, so Blake Aviles, A-V as in Victor, I-L-E-S. And I'd love to connect there and grow a relationship with them.
Thank you so much. All right, folks. Well, you're going to check Blake out on LinkedIn. All right, y'all, we've come to the end of the time together. I'm so sorry, but you know what? That's all the more reason why you should check out the next episode. So before you go, give us a subscribe to this podcast. Give me a follow on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you have any requests for future topics or speakers, and Blake, you'll send me some as well, I'm sure, send me an email at raihana@rawcoaching.com, and I'll put that in the show notes for you. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Blake. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Bye.